The distinctive rendition of the Icelandic landscape by its planners can be linked to nationalism and the movement for home rule and self-reliance, which was very active in the mid-19th century. In the recent years, artistic practice has multiplied, and the Icelandic art landscape has become a setting for many large-scale projects and expo. The artist-run gallery space, Kling og Bang, has been a significant part of the trend of self-organized spaces, exhibitions, and projects.
Chinese literature is a vast subject that spans thousands of years. One of the interesting things about Chinese literature is that much of the serious literature was composed using a formal written language that is called classical Chinese. The large breadth of time, with so many writers living in the various eras and countries, makes Chinese literature complex. Chinese literature works include fiction, philosophical and religious works, poetry, and Um, I'm responsible for student admissions to the college, and I use a computer system to help process student enrollments and to do the timetabling. But it doesn't really suit the way we work these days. It's over 10 years old, and although it was fine when it was first introduced, it is just not good enough now. 20 years ago, the college was quite small and we didn't have the number of students and tutors that we have now. There's a lot more data now, and it sometimes seems the system has crashed. But in fact, it just takes ages to go from one screen to the next.
Well, as you don't need me to tell you, Barford has changed a great deal in the last 50 years. These are some of the main changes. 50 years ago, buses linked virtually every part of the town and the neighbouring towns and villages. Most people used them frequently, but not now, because the bus companies concentrate on just the routes that attract most passengers. So parts of the town are no longer served by buses. Even replacing old, uncomfortable buses with smart new ones has had little impact on passenger numbers. It's sometimes said that bus fares are too high, but in relation to average incomes, fares are not much higher than they were 50 years ago.
Professor Martin Albro is a British sociologist noted for his works on globalization, the theory of the global age, and global civil society. He was born in 1937 and was appointed in 1963 as the first full-time sociologist at Reading University and subsequently worked at University College Cardiff, where he was head of the department. He was also held visiting or guest positions at Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, the London School of Economics, the State University of New York at Stony Brook, the Beijing Foreign Studies University, and the University of Bonn. Professor Albro was president of the British Sociological Association from 1985 to 1987 and the editor-in-chief of its journal Sociology from 1981 to 1984. Additionally, he was the founding editor of the International Sociological Association's journal, International Sociology. He wrote The Global Age, A State and Society Beyond Modernity, awarded the 1997 European Amalfi Prize, which argued against the view that globalization was an inevitable one-way process and that a new age had supplanted both the modern and postmodern ages.
Published studies can motivate future research, inspire new products, and inform government policy. So it's important that we have confidence in the published results. If their conclusions are wrong, we risk time, resources, and even our health in the pursuit of false leads. When findings are significant, they are frequently double-checked by other researchers, either by reanalyzing the data or by redoing the entire experiment. For example, it took repeated investigation of the CERN data before the timing error was tracked down. Unfortunately, there are currently neither the resources nor professional incentives to double-check the more than 1 million scientific papers published annually. Even when papers are challenged, the results are not reassuring. Recent studies that examined dozens of published pharmaceutical papers managed to replicate the results of less than 25% of them, and similar results have been found in other scientific disciplines.
Nurses specialize in clinical work and management. We cannot consider an increase in price at this stage.
Now, let's consider two types of mistakes that can occur when a manager actually starts to set up a duplicate system to replicate a successful process. Firstly, perhaps he forgets that he was just trying to copy another process and starts trying to improve on it. Another mistake is trying to use the best parts of various different systems in the hope of creating the perfect combination. Unfortunately, attempts like these usually turn out to be misguided and lead to problems. Why? Well, for various reasons. Perhaps there weren't really any advantages after all. because the information was inaccurate. Or perhaps the business settings weren't really comparable. More typically, the advantages are real enough, but there are also disadvantages that have been overlooked. For example, the modification might compromise safety in some way. So what's the solution? Well, I don't intend to suggest that it's easy to get things right the second time. It's not. But the underlying problem has more to do with attitudes than the actual difficulty of the task. And there are ways of getting it right. These involve adjusting attitudes, being more realistic and cautious, really.